Everyone, it's Professor Snarth here checking in as we are wrapping up our work on Unit 3 here and moving into Unit 4. So it's Wednesday morning when I'm recording this, February 7th. So still a little ways from that end of Thursday due date, but I don't see any posts to our Padlet for the setting thing, nor do I see any posts to the discussion board for updated portfolio pages. So again, I'm assuming that that work is in progress, but make sure that you're not waiting so late against the due dates where you're just kind of rushing to get things done and not putting as much thought into it as we'd like to see. Especially with that Padlet one, which really should be unfolding over a series of days. Not that it takes a long time, but that you want to let it unfold over that much time as opposed to just doing it in 15 minutes and kind of, making something work. So anyway, be sure you're really budgeting your time effectively and managing it effectively. But I did then want to take a quick look at Unit 4, which I personally think is one of the most interesting that we do in the short fiction genre here, largely because of my own, I guess you'd say, research background or interest in the idea of textual difference and this notion that if we read a short story, whether it's this one or any of the ones that we've read, if we all read the story with the same title, we've theoretically read the same work and we can have a discussion about that. Commonsensically, that seems like, right, that's how it works. We've all read the same story, now we can move ahead. But this unit sort of challenges that notion because this particular story exists in a form now, at least in our textbook and in most textbooks, that's slightly different than how it was originally published at the turn of the 20th century, I guess it was, in the late 1800s, turn of the 19th century. So, and it's not difference, they're not really glaring differences, but they're subtle enough, and there's enough of them that I think it gives us pause to reconsider this notion that if we've all read the story with the same title, then yes, we've all read the same story and we have the same kind of access to its meanings or ideas, or we have the same reaction to it. We can formulate, similar interpretations. This unit gets us to really rethink that notion by looking at some subtle differences, but again, when they're compounded together, it suggests that, you could read one version of, in this case, the yellow wallpaper. I could read a slightly different version of the yellow wallpaper, and we could actually have very drastically different interpretations or even access to possible interpretations. So let's take a quick look at how that's going to work. Oh, there is a little interim survey here, which I'd mentioned in some previous announcements. Again, getting your sense of like how the course is going so far, but also your input into like what is an honors course versus a non-honors course. So again, I look forward to your thoughts on that subject. Okay. All right. I'll come back to this part in just a second. So we have another Padlet set up here, but very different from our Unit 3 Padlet. The Unit 3 Padlet is very much that mobile kind of assignment. You're doing it while you're doing your daily life kind of a thing. This Padlet is much more sit and do as you're at the computer or on whatever device you use to read our stories. So this is a place where I'm inviting you to post, as you're reading the work, a couple of ideas about what you think are major themes in the work. And then in addition to that big picture, the big theme idea, also a quotation or a short phrase, and ideally with a page number reference in case folks want to find it later, that you think sort of exemplifies that theme. So we're connecting the big thematic ideas to some really specific quotation. And again, you're going to be posting this largely just as text, right? So this isn't like a mobile assignment where you're taking pictures or posting video or that kind of stuff. It's really just almost like a more traditional corkboard where you're posting little notes, and we're connecting that big theme idea to some of the short quotation. And so if everyone posts a couple of these as you're reading the work, we'll have a really nice compendium on our corkboard here of themes and then some places in the text where we see those themes coming together. Again, include your name in the post because we're not using Padlet where we have to build an account, so we're just using it anonymously. So I don't know who's posted what unless you include your name in that post that you're doing. But again, not a mobile assignment. You're just using this as you're reading the text, identifying major themes and connecting that to short quotations. Okay, a little quiz. Again, I've talked about quizzes. They have some point value, but they're not a huge deal. Really, their purpose is to draw your attention to certain aspects of a text that maybe you didn't notice the first time around. All right, so here's the main assignment that we're looking at. The yellow wallpaper was originally published in this New England magazine in 1892. This link should take you to a digital reproduction of how that actually looked, so it's physically not the exact thing that we get to hold, but it's as close as we get to what the original would have looked like in that first publication. I've tried to give you a few clues in the images that I've posted here, for differences that we're looking for, but I need to caution you that the differences that we're looking for between our textbook version and this original New England magazine version are not huge swaths of text that have been cut out, like a whole paragraph's missing, or a whole new character is introduced, or there's a whole different theme, or there's a whole scene that's there or not there. So it's really subtle differences that we're looking for. And if there were just one of these, I'd say, well, it's just an editorial thing, it's not that big a deal. But there's enough of them, and they're of a particular type, that I think you'll find that they actually make a profound difference in if you read the New England magazine version, or this digital reproduction version, versus the version in our textbook. You could, sort of make the argument that you've actually read different stories. Sure, they've got more or less the same title, and we think of them as kind of the same, basically. But is that common sense approach actually doing sort of a disservice to the story and to our access to different interpretations? So again, you can use these little clues here, but do your best to pick out those really, really subtle differences. And then, of course, the assignment, is just to reflect on at least 3 key differences, and don't just point them out, That's I wouldn't say the easy part, but that's the surface part of it, to find the differences. But then we want to figure out, what effect do they have on our reading of the story, our interpretation, on how, if we didn't have these certain things going on, how we might read the story differently. So it's kind of speculation, but you will hopefully be able to notice, as you identify these really subtle differences, they actually point back to some of those bigger themes that we'll identify in this Padlet assignment here. So again, we really need to do this part of it, the Padlet part, before you get into the second part of the assignment down here. And again, there's always this reply piece that you want to finish up after you've done your kind of main work for the unit. Okay, so that's the big part of Unit 4 here, in terms of challenging this notion that if we all read the story with the same title, that we've all actually read the same quote-unquote story. Let me reverse us here to kind of pick up on the first thing we want to do in Unit 4 is actually connecting some of the dots from Unit 3, the setting Padlet. And it's a little bit complicated, or at least it seems like a lot of description or explanation here, but it's actually fairly straightforward. It's a little bit of back and forth, but we'll walk through it here. So what we're going to do is all use this shared Google document, so we're all going into the same space, so just be careful that you don't delete anything or inadvertently, type in a wrong spot. So find a kind of free space here. Okay, so let's see, where can I pick up? Obviously, you want to go back to the completed, Unit 3 setting Padlet once we have that populated with pictures. So, of course, the point of that was that people discovered settings in their everyday life that if they weren't literal representations of a setting from a story, they kind of evoked the same mood or atmosphere. So the Padlet, because of the nature of it as a mobile thing, we don't get a lot of explanation in there. So you could have posted a picture and maybe there's a title or a short sentence, or you indicate what story it's from, but you don't need to go to great lengths to explain that. So what we're going to do here is do some explaining, but with the caveat that you're not going to go back to your own posts. You're going to find somebody else's picture. And again, that picture should be identified or tied with a story, so you have those 2 pieces of information. and then you want to build a little space in our Google Doc here where you do the explanation, but from your perspective. And in fact, your perspective might end up being totally different from what the person had intended. And that's totally okay. That's sort of what we want to discover here. Okay, so a quick little example here. All right, so here's what I would do. I would grab that post from the Padlet, the picture, paste it in, then a little, pardon me, explanation about what I think of it, right? And then one last step is that you want to comment on the comment. And this is, again, just taking it one step further. Once you notice that someone has commented on a picture of yours, you want to go back in to the Google Doc here, our shared space, and actually like comment on the comment. And it's not so much did the person get it right or not, because we could easily have two, different interpretations. But you can certainly talk about, did they have the same interpretation as you? Was it totally different? Was there some overlap, right? So we want to take that kind of discussion board idea of a post and a reply and fold in one more reply to it. So if we think of, look at our example that I embedded here. So here's my example. So we have kind of the initial part of the discussion is actually the picture from the Padlet in Unit 3. So I go and I grab that, I right click it, however you want to copy and paste it, right? It'll populate into our Padlet here. Then I do a little thing about what I think, is happening in this picture and how it relates to that particular story. And then of course I attach my name to it if I haven't signed in, just so it's clear who's writing what. And then there's this interim step where, and I'm using an example from a previous class since I don't have one to work with right now, then this person, the student from the class, would see that, oh, someone's done a post about one of the things that I put into the Unit 3 Padlet, and now she wants to get in there and basically do a reply to my reply. And this one is a little facetious funny, but I think you get the idea. And so we want to populate our Google Doc with a whole bunch of these where people have, gone back into the Unit 3 Padlet, grabbed a picture, provided their own kind of interpretation or commentary on it, and then the original poster of that picture buttons it up by going back in and suggests, oh yeah, this person had the same idea, maybe a different idea, oh, I hadn't thought of that before, right? Whatever it happens to be. So we end up with a Google Doc that's full of this really productive discussion of some initial postings that we did for Unit 3. So this is another unit where we have two, I don't know if major is a good word, but two significant, right, projects to undertake. And I really, again, encourage you to be working on them simultaneously if possible, so you don't feel obliged to finish one thing entirely and then get on to the other. Or even if you're the kind of person who likes to compartmentalize and do one thing and finish and then move on to the next, you're being really conscious of managing your time so we're not getting to Wednesday again and I'm seeing practically nothing done in here. There's hardly anything in here in this Padlet. There's hardly anything then in this discussion board. And I'm just getting nervous that people are waiting so long that all of a sudden, if not now, then at some point the work is going to suffer. Where is it getting done? Yeah. Is it reflecting like legitimate time and effort? That I start to worry a little bit about, especially with these sort of free-form assignments like a Padlet thing. For Unit 3. I hate to speculate, but what I don't want people to do is just realize that, oh, this thing is due in like 2 hours. So click, 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 there's 3 pictures of random things. And then I'll just reverse engineer some way that these connect, right? It's not really the point of the assignment. The point of the assignment back here in Unit 3, and this goes for any assignment that we do, is, again, especially for like the mobile ones, is to really have these stories kind of circulating in your mind in your daily life. So you're not just waiting until Thursday afternoon and then be like, oh, I have an hour, I guess I'll do this assignment. And you happen to be at school, so you snap 3 pictures of, again, random stuff at school, and then figure out a way that they connect. So they really haven't resonated with you. It's just, they're there, so I'll grab those ones, and I'm kind of rushed for time, so that'll work. There's no way I can exactly police that. I think you and I both know. But it does, make me a little nervous when I'm seeing kind of nothing here and nothing here. Maybe these are underway, I don't know. And we're getting right into just a couple days before our due date. And keeping in mind that we've had a bunch of days since our last due date, when I'm obviously hoping that people get a jump on our next stuff that we're doing. Okay, that's enough lecturing and scolding from my perspective. So I hope you're getting into the class and kind of enjoying the variety of things that we're doing here. And if you do have any questions or concerns or comments, you can always reach out to me by email, and we can go back and forth that way. We can meet face to face. We can do a virtual thing. So I want to be really accessible for folks as we move deeper into our course.